Welcome to another one of my weekly self-defense analysis. And in this particular video, I'm going to be explaining to you, um, my analysis on Krav Maga with real-life examples, and I'm going to explain to you if it works or not, give my thoughts on it. Um, so with that, here we go. It says first case we have is of a Krav Maga expert who ended a knife attack in Israel, and we're going to pretty much get into it. A Krav Maga expert was hailed an Israeli hero when he single-handedly brought an end to a knife-wielding terrorist horrific stabbing spree. Kefir Yitzhaki, a sergeant first class in the Israeli Defense Forces elite counterterrorism unit, and its former chief Krav Maga instructor, was in his car near the central bus station south of Tel Aviv when he was alerted to a situation that could have left most people either fleeing in terror or paralyzed with fear. He quickly established from the cries of panic-stricken citizens that a terror attack was underway nearby, and as he left his car, he spotted a 19-year-old man with a knife chasing down people and stabbing them on the other side of the road. Without a moment's hesitation, the unarmed Izaki started chasing the terrorist down the street, with CCTV capturing the chilling moment that an 80-year-old woman was stabbed in the back and fell just a few yards in front of the self-defense specialist. Undeterred, continued to give pursuit as he gained ground on the terrorist. He shouted at him, which caused the lunatic to stop running and turn to face him. He quickly uh, reacted instinctively by push-kicking the terrorist, sending him a few paces backwards. The terrorist then fled to a nearby store and stabbed a worker behind the counter. He quickly caught up with him again and engaged in a frantic life-or-death struggle, using anything he could to get his hands on to hit the man in an attempt to subdue him. At that stage, he began to gain the upper hand and was able to disarm the terrorist, and then he used his martial arts training to render him unconscious using rear naked choke. And that's the end of the story. So, um, in the video, you can't really see too well, um, what's going on, but from what you could see was, um, you could see the him using a chair and just hitting the guy with it, and you know, until finally the guy weakens and by the report, and then he manages to put a chokehold on him. So, um, but notice how in that particular case he wasn't using any any flashy moves or stuff like that. Um, so he actually used a chair as a primary means of self-defense. Um, so yeah, pretty much, in that particular case, we know that Krav Maga prepares, teaches you, has the right mindset basically. With using the chair and using improvised weapons. As far as the push kick, um, I don't know if that was exactly effective. I mean, uh, personally, for me, push kicking in Krav Maga is not really that powerful. Um, just from the way that they do it, it it just, you don't push kick. If you want to really deliver power, you don't push your kicks. But we'll get over that. We'll go over that another time. And um, other than that, he did pretty good. Um, Judging from the report, So yeah, so for that case, let's go to this one. Actually, this one first. Um, this student says, I was at a Jack in the Box on Market first in the city with a friend. We just got done eating, and my friend was near the garbage cans throwing his stuff away when this guy walks up in with his wife and two kids. He immediately started being rude and belligerent towards my friend. I noticed that the guy was reaching in his pocket the whole time and trying to get in close to my friend. I was trying to totally back down. The guy wasn't taking no for an answer. I got up from the table where I was sitting and walked over to the garbage cans to see what was going on. And I asked my friend if he was ready to leave. He said yes, but the guy kept on trying to walk to my buddy. I then turned around and told him to step back and that we didn't want any trouble. The guy then said to me, I know that you aren't going to get involved in this. I said, I don't want to, but I will if I have to. The guy started trying to intimidate me and get close to me, and then I told him to stay back and that whatever he had to say to me, he could be said right there where you are. He was reaching in his pocket. I reached in my pocket to get my cell phone and called the police. Unfortunately, it was out of power, and then he said, why don't you step outside, knowing that would have been a huge mistake. I told him no, and that if you want to do something to me, you're going to have to do it right here. He then made a lunge at me. I threw a kick towards the family jewels, and the guy backed up shocked. I then stepped back and made sure that I had room to maneuver. I was looking around to make sure no one else was coming. My friend was in a kind of shock, so I pushed him away to make sure the nut job didn't get to him as well. His eyes were all glassed over, and his pupils were dilated, so I knew he was strung out on something. When no one was calling the cops, I couldn't run because who knew who or what was inside, so I then decided that I was left with no other options. The guy kept on trying to close in, so I backed up, dropped into an outlet stance, and threw a straight, sorry. He stepped back and charged. He was trying to bull rush me. I saw that he had pulled out a knife. He tried to stab twice. I used inside defense. He caught me with the tip, nothing else. I caught him with a right hook that shook him up pretty good. I then tried to step out to the right to try to get control of his knife hand, but he started rushing again. I saw his girl there trying to attack my buddy for no reason. I knew that I did not want to turn my back on her, so I stood my ground. The guy was swinging wildly at my midsection, threw a 360-degree defense, but missed his wrist and hit the joint, so his arm bent and went around the block. I took a knife shot to the side, but thanks to that technique, I was able to minimize how deep the attack penetrated. I got his arm and the knife out of my side, and then went for side control. I pushed his head down and was wailing on the guy and hitting him in the back of the neck, just like we do in class. His girl jumped on me because I was getting the better of him and I slipped in my own blood. Thanks to being able to use the ground defense techniques that we learned, I was able to get back up real quick um, and protect myself at the same time. Then it was just like the aggression drills that we do in class. I was right back on him striking, kicked him in the family jewels, and his head went back down. So I went back down to side control. I was like, this guy is going to stop. So I then started gouging and tearing at his eyes, mouth, and nose, and everything else I could get my hands on. I just wasn't going to stop till either I was dead or he stopped moving. His girl tried to jump in again, but I was scanning and saw her coming. I then turned on her, and I guess she was so surprised that I saw her coming, so she stopped in her tracks. I got my hand on the knife and then went after her with it. Needless to say, I was bleeding pretty bad. They ran at that point, but I was also kind of prepared for the aftermath. I knew that I had to keep myself quick and try to keep from bleeding out. That's where it ends. He passed out from the knife wound, and so yeah, let's go back to look at that again. Um, okay, so basically, the guy talks about how he, he starts being rude and belligerent to his friend or whatnot, and Krav Maga practitioner says, uh, he was reaching in his pocket the whole time, trying to get close to his friend. I was trying to back down. And then the practitioner gets up from the table, um, walked over, and so right there, the guy's being confrontational. Um, and then the guy, practitioner says, "We don't want trouble." Gave him a command. Um, and then the guy says, "You aren't going to get involved in this." And the practitioner says, "I don't want to, but I will if I have to." And right there, this is bad, and I'll tell you why. Um, First of all, practitioner is being confrontational. Um, if you know about verbal de-escalation, you know that um, you're not supposed to pretty much um, you know give anybody commands because um, now you're just getting into a power struggle. Now the aggressor, he's trying to um, impose his power on his victims. So, and not only, clearly the Krav Maga practitioner doesn't have good verbal de-escalation skills. Um, you know, Judging by the way he says, "I don't want to, but I will if I have to." You know, right there, he's being confrontational, and that's the last thing you want. Um, because now you got the guy trying to intimidate, says, trying to intimidate him, get close. Now he's giving him another command to stay back, um, and that whatever he wanted to say to him can be said right there. Still reaching for his pocket. And then after that, he he tries to call the cops, but um, you know, um, phone dies, and so right there's another mistake is that the smart thing to do would have been to pretty much um, be observational, but not give away your intentions. Just watch your pretty much watch your attacker, and don't let him know who you are. And if he gets if he's mouthing off or whatnot, then you could call the cops. But it seems like right there it was too late. It already got into confrontation. Um, but the good thing was that he didn't step outside. Um, Again, with a confrontation, if you want to do something to me, you're gonna have to do it right here. He's being challenging, and that's not really effective self-defense. Self-defense is about preventing violence. Not about escalating it. Um, so the guy, by then it's too late. The guy takes the lunge. Um, then he kicks him in the family jewels, as I said. Guy backed up, shocked. Um, you know, he stepped back and made sure that he had room to maneuver and making sure no one else is coming. Right there is another mistake. Um, if you study Krav Maga, you know that you're supposed to be aggressive and take your attacker out as quickly as you can. You don't wait. You don't uh, back up and look around and stuff like that. You look around after the threat is over. Um, But right, and as soon as the guy backed up and was shocked, the Krav Maga practitioner could have easily just gone straight in and started attacking. Um, but he didn't. He waited, and so pretty much it was a full blown fight. Um, Guy kept on trying to close in, so I backed up, dropped into outlet stance, and threw a straight. Um, he stepped back in charge when he was trying to bull rush me. Um, and this is another thing, another important reminder is that when someone's trying to charge you, you already, how do I say this? When someone's trying to charge you, and, even if they're unarmed, you always have to assume that they have a weapon. That's why it's so important to end the threat as quickly as possible, because you don't know if they got a gun, if they got friends, you don't know. Um, so that's pretty much, this guy's mistake is that he's treating it as if it were a fight, and it should never be a fight. It should be quick incapacitation. Um, so the guy pulls out a knife, try to stab him twice. He used inside defense, caught him with the tip, nothing else. Um, he tried to get control of his knife hand, started rushing again. Um, so right then, another opportunity missed to pretty much attack him and neutralize him. And as far as inside defense, a lot of the Krav Maga knife defense disarms don't really work. You know, um, that's why he got stabbed, because you're not really getting control of the weapon and the angle of the attack. You know, it can still reach you. The angle of the knife can still reach you with the way your hands are positioned. Um, so let's see. So his girl comes in. Um, Actually, no. His girl tries to attack his buddy. Um, Guys, he's swinging and stuff, and again, should have ended the confrontation um, earlier. Um, Threw his 360 defense, but missed his wrist and hit the joint, so his arm bent and went around the block, took knife shots at the side of things. Okay, so you know it's very important to get effective knife disarming techniques. Right there, you could totally see that pretty much he didn't really have, um, didn't get full control of the knife, and that's pretty much because of the technique that he was using. Um, so then so he pushed his head down. He was waiting on the guy and hitting him in the back of the head and the neck. Um, and right there, that's not being efficient. That's the lack of efficiency in Krav Maga. Um, and this is the problem with Krav Maga is that you could be hitting a guy in the neck and all these different areas, but you're not really doing much damage. Um, it's better to have one move that can knock the guy out than to try to like come up with all these different moves and stuff like that. And, all these um, repetitive strikes and stuff like that. So he falls and then he gets up. Um, and goes right back to striking. Um, um, and right there, he should have taken care of the girl. Should have hit her or something. Um, or either that or reposition himself to take care of her as well. Um, maybe he could have used the phone as an improvised weapon. That's another thing. So, and other stuff as well. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad, but those are important things that you want to keep in mind. Um, Pretty much, the situation could have been resolved peacefully, um, but it had to escalate into violence, and a confrontational attitude is just something that you don't want. Which leads me to my next case. 18-year-old Krav Maga student is killed trying to retrieve his lost cell phone. He lost the cell phone, then used the popular app to track it, but why confront the three individuals in a car? This is not a story with a happy ending. Okay, I'm going to skip that. Um, According to London police, Jeremy was able to trace the phone to a parking lot on early Sunday morning. This is when he approached a car with three people in it. One of the students got out, but when the car started to take off, Jerry, sorry. Shots were fired and the teenager was hit multiple times. The body was found behind a nearby plaza and pronounced dead at the scene. Police also found the vehicle nearby, abandoned, along with a cell phone. Uh, yeah. So the mistake here was that this guy got too cocky. He thought that he could take on three individuals because he knew Krav Maga. Um, he tracked his cell phone. Um, you know, and tried to pretty much beat all. I guess he thought that he could beat all those guys up and just take his phone. Um, he tried grabbing the door, but he got shot and killed. So that's another thing that you want to pretty much keep in mind is that when you get robbed, the best thing you can do is pretty much hand over your valuables. Like forget about chasing down, your robber, stuff like that. The safer option is to pretty much give up your valuables. Don't try to fight. You know, realize that you can pretty much get it later on. So, because if not, then that's going to get you killed on the streets. So, um, yeah, I think Krav Maga overall has more or less the right mindset, more than other martial arts, but I don't agree with how it's practiced. Um, for the reasons that I listed, some of the reasons I listed. Um, I think that there's more effective ways of self defense. Um, Basically, Krav Maga is overrated. It's all hype. It's not really nothing of substance. It's just using the Israeli military to boost its sales, and that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Um, you know, so that's pretty much it. I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you want to take any self-defense lessons, feel free to pretty much check out the link below. Suggest any topics that you have in the comments as well. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, donate, and I'll see you next week.